For thousands of years, the coca leaf was a simple, functional tool. Indigenous populations across South America harvested it directly from the earth, treating the raw plant as a daily necessity rather than a recreational escape. Chewing the leaf released a very mild stimulant effect. It allowed workers to suppress their appetite, fight off the cold, and maintain their stamina while performing grueling physical labor high in the thin air of the Andean mountains. That localized natural use changed in the mid-19th century. European chemists learned how to strip away the plant material and isolate the specific active alkaloid hidden inside the leaf. They extracted it, purified it, and created a highly concentrated white powder. This new chemical concentrate was aggressively embraced as a modern medical breakthrough. It was packaged and sold over the counter to anyone who wanted it, mixed freely into everyday pharmacy tonics, toothache drops, and early commercial sodas without any oversight. By isolating the most potent fraction of the plant, early chemists took an organic labor aid and weaponized its chemistry. They created a mass-produced, highly addictive commodity that the human nervous system was never designed to process in such heavy concentrations. The honeymoon with this new medical marvel was short. By the early 1900s, hospitals and asylums were filling with patients suffering from severe dependency, paranoia, and physical decay. The medical community realized the intense psychological toll of refined cocaine, triggering a nationwide public health panic. The federal government responded with aggressive intervention. Lawmakers stripped the drug of its legitimate medical status, passing strict federal regulations to cut off the legal supply and penalize distribution. With the legal tap shut off, the substance disappeared from pharmacy shelves. But the intense chemical addiction it had created remained in the population. The supply chain simply shifted, moving out of the laboratory and directly into the hands of an illicit underground market. In a few short decades, the chemical went from a celebrated medicine to a strictly prohibited narcotic. It became a primary target for federal law enforcement, cementing a combative legal status that remains completely unchanged today. The chemistry evolved again in the 1980s. Illicit manufacturers developed methods to process the powder into freebase and crack cocaine. This new form could be smoked, which delivered a much faster, far more intense high, while drastically driving down the cost of production. The cheap, highly potent supply triggered an explosive epidemic across American cities. The social landscape deteriorated rapidly as addiction rates spiked, prompting law enforcement to crack down heavily on street-level distribution and violence. But street arrests alone could not contain the sheer scale of the crisis. Recognizing the threat to the broader economy, the Reagan administration expanded their strategy, pushing past criminal enforcement to implement sweeping, zero-tolerance drug policies directly inside the American workplace. This mandate led directly to the establishment of the Department of Transportation's stringent drug testing framework. The federal government needed a permanent mechanism to ensure this rapidly spreading crisis did not infiltrate the national supply chain or compromise the safety of the transit network. The rigid, unyielding rules CDL holders face today are a direct artifact of the 1980s, built to combat an aggressive epidemic that the federal government was determined to keep off the roads. To understand why the DOT considers this drug uniquely dangerous for drivers, look at how it manipulates biology. Cocaine physically blocks the brain's dopamine transporters. Instead of recycling normally, the brain's reward chemicals get trapped, creating an aggressive, chaotic flood of stimulation. This chemical flood tricks the user. It generates a powerful illusion of sobriety and hypercompetence. A fatigued driver under the influence will feel artificially alert, overly confident in their reaction times, and completely immune to physical exhaustion. This animated diagram shows exactly what is happening beneath that psychological illusion. On the top, you see an erratic, steeply climbing line representing the body's heart rate and cardiovascular stress. On the bottom is the user's stable but extremely fragile cognitive baseline. While the brain feels focused, the heart and blood vessels are actively straining under dangerous pressure. The brain cannot sustain that chemical flood indefinitely. The neurotransmitters rapidly deplete, triggering an inevitable biological crash. The euphoric energy vanishes almost instantly. replaced by a crushing wave of severe physical exhaustion, mental fog, and heavily delayed reaction times. For a commercial driver handling 80,000 pounds of freight, this sudden crash is deadly. As the central nervous system rapidly powers down, the driver loses the ability to keep their eyes open, falling into heavy, unpreventable microsleeps while still traveling at highway speeds. The true danger of cocaine on the road is its deception. It effectively masks deep physical exhaustion, convincing a driver they are perfectly safe right up until the exact moment their body forcibly shuts down. Because the body processes the substance so aggressively, its chemical footprint metabolizes and clears out very quickly. Compared to cannabis, the detection window for cocaine in a standard DOT urine screen is remarkably short, usually measured in just a few days. That short window dictates the DOT's administrative logic. If a CDL holder tests positive for cocaine on a random or post-accident screen, it chemically proves they ingested the drug dangerously close to stepping into the cab and performing safety-sensitive duties. The workplace consequences are immediate and non-negotiable. A verified positive result triggers an automatic removal from duty. The driver loses their commercial driving privileges on the spot and enters a prohibited status, completely halting their career. The federal stance offers absolutely no flexibility. There are no legal threshold limits, no accepted medical explanations, and no state-level exemptions that a medical review officer can apply to a positive cocaine screen. The substance began thousands of years ago as a raw leaf, used simply to help workers endure hard labor. Through decades of intense chemical refinement, it evolved into a highly dangerous narcotic that entirely destabilizes the human nervous system. Because of that extreme biological unpredictability, the federal government treats it with absolute zero tolerance. Any interaction with the drug today guarantees the immediate termination of a safety-critical career.